So we recently just covered the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet, how those diets came to be, and really took a look at what foods are recommended in those diet eating patterns. So this slide here, the healthy eating plate, is from the Harvard School of Public Health, their nutrition department. And you can see it very closely mirrors a lot of the recommendations from DASH and Mediterranean style eating patterns. Heavy emphasis on fresh fruits and vegetables, those foods making up at least 50% or more of your diet. Whole grains, again, a big portion, those whole unrefined grains that have a lot of nutrients left in them, whether that is oatmeal or a whole grain bread, quinoa, things of that nature. Even some whole wheat pasta. And then focus on a healthy protein. That can be a vegetarian-based protein like beans or nuts, for instance, and of course things like fish and chicken as a healthier meat option. Beverages, focus more on water, tea and coffee as kind of your go-to beverages, and really limiting those sugary beverages like juices and sodas, of course. All right, so we tend to make eating and make dietary changes very difficult. We tend to overcomplicate things. It's very easy to get confused by all the different options out there and the information in media, all the different diet books. So I'm going to show you 3 simple dietary alterations that make all the difference in eating a healthy diet. These 3 simple things, let these be kind of your guiding principles in terms of eating a healthier diet. So we'll take a look at those now. All right, so 3 diet switches. And these are really in the order of importance, I would say. So keep in mind a lot of the principles that we talked about with diets like the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. The first of those things being increasing the intake of those whole plant-based foods, getting more whole fruits and vegetables into your diet, more whole grains, more beans, things of that nature. Limiting the heavily processed grains in your diet, so the cereal grains with all of the fiber stripped out, a lot of sugar added in, really refined breads like plain white breads, plain white pastas, snack foods, avoiding all the added sugars that might be in things like drinks and sweets, and even some healthy appearing foods like some granola bars, for instance, tend to have a lot of added sugar. Yogurt oftentimes will have a lot of added sugar. And being more mindful about the quantity of meats that we're eating and dairy and the types of meats. So really the recommendation through organizations like the American Dietetics Association is really about 4 to 6 ounces of meat is kind of the upper level limit for what's recommended for a healthy diet. And as well, focusing on more options like chicken and fish versus the red meats and the processed meats and things of that nature. Again, it's not perfect. We don't have to be perfect about making these changes. But if you're somebody who has it in their mind, hey, I'd like to eat better, these are some basic guidelines. Look at including more of the fruits and vegetables in the mix. Look at reducing those heavily processed foods and the meats and the dairy. Do what you can to moderate there. But these are 3 great dietary principles to begin to follow if you're interested in making changes in your diet. All right, so we've talked quite a bit about the basic principles of eating habits, eating patterns like the DASH and Mediterranean diet. Now we're going to take a look at a basic daily menu, what that might actually look like for somebody that's following a healthier eating approach that implements some of those principles. So breakfast might be a Greek yogurt, for instance, with strawberries and oats. For lunch, you might have a whole grain sandwich that could be chicken or turkey with lettuce and tomato, pickle, onion, along with maybe some vegetables on the side or a side salad, for instance. Dinner might be a tuna salad dressed in olive oil and lemon juice. a piece of fruit for dessert, for instance. Snacks could be fruit, nuts, apple slices with peanut butter, healthy snack bar, popcorn, dark chocolate. There really are a lot of different things you can eat on these dietary approaches, so they really are pretty inclusive. How about another day? So another example menu. Breakfast might be oatmeal with raisins, nuts, and an apple on the side. Lunch could be Spanish brown rice and beans with a green side salad. Dinner might be a Mediterranean pizza made with a whole wheat style crust, topped with cheese, vegetables, and olives, for instance. Again, snacks could be any number of things: fruits, nuts, and apple slices with peanut butter, healthy snack bar, popcorn, dark chocolate. So again, a lot of different foods do fit into these eating patterns, and they can be very, very healthy. So now we're going to switch gears just a little bit and talk about lifestyle and how it relates to us making changes with our diet. So what is holding us back from eating a healthier diet? Why do we often fall short of goals to improve our eating pattern? So there's a number of very key elements and kind of pitfalls, lifestyle pitfalls that we get into when we start to make changes. We'll take a look at some of those now. Why we often fail to improve dietary habits. One thought is we don't allow enough time for our taste buds or our taste preferences to change. The standard American diet is full of foods that have very intense flavors. So a lot of sugar, a lot of fat, a lot of sodium. These foods tend to create a certain expectation when we eat them. And when we're switching to, more whole foods, whether that's fruits and vegetables, maybe it's whole grains, maybe it's nuts and seeds as a snack versus something that's really sweet. It takes a little while for us to adopt more of an appreciation for those foods. We also tend to crave some of those foods, whether it's a sweet treat or a salty treat. It can take 24, 48, even 72 hours of avoiding some of those foods before we see cravings begin to diminish. So it's important to have the right mindset and recognize that, hey, I'm making a pretty significant shift here. I just need to wait it out to allow my taste buds to change, to allow those cravings to begin to subside. Number two, and this kind of goes hand in hand with that first one, but we tend to be too impatient to see results. We live in a very fast-paced immediacy type of an environment. The dietary changes, lifestyle changes, really we have to look at it almost like it's a marathon versus a sprint. So if we're expecting to see weight loss, if we're expecting our dietary changes to bring about improvements in blood sugar or blood pressure or bring us more energy, these are changes that require time to play out. You're not going to see those vast changes in a week or a couple weeks. Hopefully you begin to see small shifts in the direction that you're hoping to move in, but keeping the right mindset to recognize what I'm doing now is a lifestyle change. This is something I hope to carry with me the remainder of my time. And again, it is a marathon, not a sprint. So hopefully the changes we make, we're going to see some small improvements over time, but the measuring stick really should be applied more in weeks and months versus days. So number three, when we make a dietary change, we oftentimes approach it with the wrong mindset. So we tend to look at it from a perspective of all the things I can't eat anymore, all the things I have to minimize or reduce. We should be looking at it from the perspective of having an open mind in terms of looking at all the things I still do enjoy and I can eat, and being open-minded about trying new foods, preparing foods in a new way, cooking foods differently, seasoning them differently. Chances are, whatever dietary change you're making, there's still an awful lot of tasty, satisfying foods that you can consume. So try to have the right mindset. Don't mourn everything that you're trying to limit, but approach it with the standpoint of I'm going to have a positive mindset, and I'm going to be open-minded to the possibilities of these new foods. Number four, unfortunately, we often lack support when we make a significant lifestyle change, especially diet. So it's a great idea to, the people around you, the people closest to you, to let them know what you're doing. Hey, I'm trying to make this dietary change. I'm trying to avoid, sugars, and I'm trying to eat more fruits and vegetables. Make sure the people around you understand what you're trying to do, why it's important to you. It's great if your significant other is doing that change along with you, or maybe you have a close friend or coworker that is making a similar change, so that there's somebody to kind of share in that change with you. There are online groups for support as well. You can do journaling that kind of helps keep your mind in the right place, but try to make sure that you've got a support network there to help you with those changes. Number five, and this is probably for me one of the most important ones. We don't often take the time to prepare and plan for our change. We don't set our own parameters and guidelines for how we're going to be successful. Oftentimes we don't set goals. If we set goals, they're not meaningful enough, or they're not specific enough. If we're making dietary changes, we have to kind of carve out time to get to the store to make sure we have healthy foods on hand. We need to make sure we understand when our meals are coming, when our snacks are coming. What are the foods I'm absolutely going to avoid? What are the foods I'm going to include more of in my diet? So these are all the questions that we should be having when we're going about these changes. Oftentimes we roll out of bed on a Monday morning and say, okay, I'm going to eat healthier. Well, that's great, and I love the enthusiasm, but oftentimes it takes defining really how we're going to get to our goals. All right, so here's a few considerations to have if you're thinking about making changes. Try not to make diet and food choices too complicated. There's a million books out there, so many different conflicting ideologies in the media. If you can focus on those basic three principles in terms of eating more fruits and vegetables, watching the refined foods in your diet, and watching out for the types of meat and the quantity of meat that you're eating, chances are if you're making changes in those three areas, you're on the right path. Try to banish that all or nothing reasoning. We oftentimes tend to look at a behavior change as I'm doing all of it, or I'm doing nothing at all. There's a lot of small changes that we can make that have a big impact. Simply making the change to eat more fruits and vegetables, or minimize the sweets and the junk food in our diet can take us a long way. Make it meaningful to you. What are the changes that you want to make? Is it due to weight loss? Is it I want to feel better and have more energy? I want to reduce chronic disease possibility in my life. Make it meaningful and get in touch with your motivation. Start somewhere, start soon. Circle a date on the calendar, whether that's a week away or a month away. Give yourself time to do the planning that we set out is so important. Set some goals and challenge yourself. Make those little changes over time that do matter, because every improvement does make a difference in our lives. We start small and we end big. So keep in mind, if you're thinking about making those changes, start somewhere small. I'm always here to help you guys if you have questions along the way. Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in and listened today. I really do appreciate your continued participation in the Wellness Your Way 2.0 program. If you guys ever need anything, ever have questions, please look me up. Thanks so much. Have a great day.